Those are longer than...
Welcome back. Faith and belief, a quintessentially Utah story that has a global implication. And the phrase that keeps coming back in this film is, love is love. The film is Believer. Two of the subjects are with me this morning. They are musicians who have found great success in the world of popular music. Dan Reynolds with Imagine Dragons, Tyler Glenn with Neon Trees. This is an examination of the relationship and the journey of both of these men, the LGBTQ reality of our world, love is love, and the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. I'm also joined by the filmmaker, Don Argott. Good morning, my friends.
Morning.
Pleasure to have you here. Congratulations, Sundance Film Festival. A really cool thing to add to your roster of accomplishments, and it's great to have you here. Dan, we'll start with you. It's a really personal story that has this incredible reach. Talk about the beginning for folks who may not have even watched the trailer yet, but are familiar with your music, and of course, the commonality of a song that's on your last record, I believe it is, called Believer, and this film called Believer.
I mean, this journey was really unexpected in a lot of ways. It's not something that I saw myself in the midst of, what, 6 months ago. Actually, 6 months ago is probably right when we started, so let's say 7 months ago. I'm born and raised Mormon in Las Vegas, Nevada, and large Mormon family, 8 boys, 1 girl. Served a Mormon mission in Nebraska, Omaha, where also Tyler served.
Interesting.
Yes, very serendipitous. And kind of had my own experience growing up of shame, shame surrounding spirituality. I was kicked out of BYU right before I was about to go. I got accepted and then kicked out for having sex with my girlfriend. And stayed home, went through a repentance process, and really fell into a pretty deep depression, feeling like I wasn't loved by my God, like I was judged by my community. Even if they weren't, I felt like they were. And that amount of shame has stuck with me for years. And I don't want to say it scarred me, because I really have grown from it, but it was not something that I would ever wish upon my own like daughter or son. I have 3 daughters now, no sons. So. But maybe I'm predicting the future. Anyway, sorry that it's hard to explain the complexity of this, but long story short, I also had friends growing up who were Mormon and gay, and I watched them go through that shaming process on a much deeper, harsher level. When you're told that your innate sense of sexuality, the most beautiful part of being, is sinful when acted upon, which is kind of the terminology they use. I am a Mormon still today, but frankly, I just have felt a need to speak out against this shaming, to talk about what is the root cause of it. We know that in Utah, the #1 reason for death among teenagers is suicide. When a child isn't accepted in the household, they're 8 times more likely to commit suicide, which to be gay and tell your parents that you're gay and you're Mormon, that is a very difficult situation. I'm sure Tyler can speak to that much more than I can. But that's kind of where this came about. We followed that journey, and we wanted to show the reality of what these kids are going through and what needs to happen to change these statistics, because they're devastating.
And the comparison of the fact that on one hand you've pursued a career where once you get to a certain level, the adulation and the positive affirmation stands in a really stark contrast to what you've been experiencing for years in your personal life. It had to make it that much more dramatic to look back at the experiences that you and so many other young Mormons have had. And I thought it was really interesting that both of you spoke very positively about your experience on your mission, and not only that, but also the culture of love within your family, and the fact that Mormonism isn't just a religion. I think of Judaism. I grew up Irish Catholic, where culture and religion are so intertwined that the challenge of facing reality of this shame that you're feeling within a larger framework is a kind of a crazy comparison.
It's a discussion that people don't really want to have in the religious communities because it's easy to turn an eye away from it. I think that Mormons, in fact, I know Mormons. I am a Mormon. My family is all still active. Mormons are good people. They're compassionate. They're loving. They want to be accepting. But they happen to be in a difficult position where our leaders are saying, you know, being gay is a serious sin. And when you tell that to a child, well, what are their choices? Celibacy, which we know through research is incredibly dangerous.
And is a recommendation.
Yes, incredibly dangerous. Or a mixed orientation marriage, marrying outside of your sexual orientation, which is just as dangerous. And then we wonder why there are these high reports of suicidality, depression, anxiety. But the thing is, there are people who've been doing this far before me. People like Tyler, people like Barbara Young, people in the Mormon community who have been standing up and saying, you know what, this needs to change. I am not some pioneer forging this. I happen to have a voice from Imagine Dragons that I want to use. I've remained silent for too long, which I am sorry for, and now it's time to do something. And yeah, watching Tyler, and maybe he could tell you his story, because that is what impacted me in a big way and moved me to where I am today.
Yeah, I left Mormonism about almost 2 years ago now, probably a year and a half ago. I was raised Mormon. I went on my mission to Nebraska as well. And me and Dan have always had sort of an intersecting experience. And we knew each other from being in bands and whatnot. But he phoned me, and I sensed this urgency in his voice, and he was saying how he should have made this call a while ago, and it was so in the moment, and I saw what he was going through, because it's one thing to not be able to act on your orientation without shame or feel you're always less than, but there's that commonality coming out and having a faith crisis and having an experience where you're forced to question everything that you sort of knew or have known. And that's what I went through, really, really hard and viscerally. I luckily have amazing parents that really chose the right thing to do, which was carry me through a really hard, difficult time. And I also chose to put all of my pain in music. So I'm fortunate that I have outlets and abilities to be able to get through things, but it's a terrifying thing to be faced with a decision to leave everything that you know, and it's much harder within the community that's so tight, like such as Mormonism. So.
And even with these communities of support, your family, first and foremost, an incredible gift. Sure. That, as we're discussing, so many young Mormon kids don't have. Yeah. And truly, I think the word heartbreaking doesn't even really capture. Only the very dire suicide rates are really. It's weird that statistics is what captures it. Don, good morning. Welcome. Nice to see you, man.
Nice to see you.
Talk about, and I read a little bit about the background of Dan being in touch with you about a wholly different film, and that your organic togetherness was what you kind of promoted this and said, wait a second, let's talk about this, the subject that coming back around that has become Believer.
Yeah. Well, just like, I've been making documentaries for a long time, and the right stories always present themselves as what needs to be told, and I think this was a classic example of that, where Dan was in a really interesting spot in his life, and he had something to say, and he was trying to figure out how he was going to manifest, what he was going through, turning it into this initial project, which was try to get outside in his community and talk to people on, you know, Fremont Street. That was his original idea that he had to just, you know, kind of shed a spotlight on other people, because I think he felt internally he was spending so much time, you know, in his position, he's always talking about himself. So I think for him was, you know, an idea to get outside of that and, you know, talk to other people. And I think that although the idea of wanting to do something was there, it wasn't necessarily the right outlet or the right idea. But it took us a little while to figure that out. It actually didn't take that long to figure out. It took about 2 weeks to figure that out. Because in going on this journey, this willingness to go on this journey, to try to, you know, kind of get to the root cause of what Dan was dealing with, you know, this is what kind of came to the surface. And, you know, it was a story that I think for Dan was in a really great spot, because he wanted to tell his story. And that's, you know, when you're making a film, probably the most important thing is access. The most important thing is this willingness to, like, be open and honest, and that's everything. You know, to make I think a very heartfelt film is the willingness to just share, you know, all the pain and the suffering and anything real that you're going through. And I think Dan tapped into something that, you know, I think we all didn't know. You know, what was really, like, this was underneath the surface. This was an issue that just needed to be kind of, like, blown wide open. And I think, you know, the fact that we were there at this critical time, and I was kind of there every step of the way. You know, listening to Tyler talk, I captured that phone call when Dan called Tyler, and because it was just, everything was all in the moment. It was all happening, and it was just, I felt we were in the middle of something really special and important. And so I'm just very grateful that these guys, you know, allowed me into their lives and trusted me to tell their help.
Especially on the moment like that, when it's in real time, it's actually happening. And so many times in documentary filmmaking, the challenge of sort of retelling something that has already taken place when a camera and a microphone wasn't present. Love Loud, an amazing day, beautifully depicted. You made some points in some earlier interviews that I read about the smallness and the small crew, that when you all first were talking together and filming together and not being invasive into Dan's space, into Dan and Tyler's relationship, and then you turn around and the two of you put together this incredible event that we were actually fortunate to be there and to cover for Park City Television. And there's actually a couple of shots backstage that I'm pretty sure that I was shoulder to shoulder with a camera. An incredible day, and beautifully depicted how fraught it was to actually get it done. A bunch of crews. Talk about, for all of you, that experience of will it, won't it, will it, won't it, and then this film comes out of it in this incredible day.
Everything about this, the documentary Love Loud, it is a product of a team of people who are so filled with passion. Anger is not the word. Sometimes it's hurt that leads to that passion. Sometimes it's education. Spending lots of time in this world, sitting down with these youth and hearing their stories. All those things together, Tyler living a life that he has, the passion that we had just started to bubble so much so that everything tried to stop this from happening. I could tell you endless stories of people who reached out to us in the Utah community and said, "You can't do this. You're going to put a black eye on Utah. Don't talk about our suicide problem. We'll fund it if you take out X, Y, Z from your mission statement. We could talk about love, but you can't talk about equality." We had everything that came against us. But the amount of passion with our team, even Don, who this was a new world to him, as he had invested that time in seeing what really was happening here, man, the passion was just so palpable that even when I talk about it now, it really fires me up. Like, that we just would not accept anything other than it happening. Even if we had to roll in a makeshift stage in a ballpark that doesn't do those kinds of things, and they're upset with us because we ended up trashing the ballpark. But there were people in Utah, just like the people who said no, there were people in Utah who said, yes, damn it, we've been waiting for this for a long time, and we're going to put we will do whatever it takes to do this. So there's this interesting juxtaposition right now in the Mormon community, and it's bigger than that. I think it's in the Orthodox community. Mormonism is Mormonism is what's represented in this film, but hopefully when people see it, they understand that it's a bigger picture. It goes beyond Mormonism to all Orthodox religion. It's homes that are teaching their children that their innate sense of sexual being is flawed or less than and needs to be fixed or subdued. That can't happen. It can't happen anymore. And that's not my opinion. That's the facts that are telling us this. And so I think that I believe in the world. I believe in the goodness of people. I think that when we all come together and we look at a problem, just Mormons, my family, a very conservative family, my uncle, who I never have gotten to know because he was gay and he left the country when I was 10 years old because there was no place for him in our family. He felt that way. That's what happens. There is just such a need for healing, and we are looking to bridge that gap. We are looking to create that conversation, and we're willing to do whatever it takes, and we're not going away. We already have planned next year's Love Loud. It's going to be at a stadium to 40,000 people. This was 20,000, 40,000. It's going to grow, and it's going to grow because the people want it. They want to express their love for their LGBTQ youth. After Love Loud, I've had so many parents that have reached out and said, in my church, 4 kids came out to their parents the week after Love Loud Festival. Well, when you have 40,000 people at Love Loud, it's going to be even more. We want a safe environment for these kids.
Could you have imagined 10 years ago?
No, not at all. That day was it was remarkable and such a blessing because I had so much fear. The Mormon community means a lot to me, and I know that I've done things publicly that maybe are offensive to those people, but I'm still a Mormon in my core, and my family still is, and just to feel that incredible mutual love back and forth, it was a surreal experience for me, and it just felt good because there was so much behind the scenes and so much pain in my band and obviously in creating and having Love Loud even happen, and to just feel that peace. It was the first time I felt healed and like maybe I can move on and put this on the shelf and kind of proceed with my life. So to me, this has been a remarkable experience and very healing personally as well.
I could talk all day. It's a fantastic film. I was very fortunate to get to screen it beforehand. It means so much as a Utahn, as a person, as a human being, what you all have done. Don, thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful stuff. And talk about screenings, because you guys are here to promote a film.
Yeah, well, the first screening, the premieres tonight at 8:30 at the Mark Theater. And then there's a screening at 6 p.m. on Monday. In Salt Lake City for the fine people at Salt Lake City.
Fantastic. I could see 40,000 people wanting to show up for the screening in Salt Lake. Yeah. Congratulations to you all. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for making time for Park City Television. And is there a website that we should send people to find out more about the film?
LoveLoudFest.com, I believe, is the website. Yes, LoveLoudFest.com. There is all sorts of swag, and that is the first time I've ever used that word. I really use that word, but there's a lot of clothing. There's great clothing. And but also there will be information very soon about the next date, where it will be, but you can guarantee it will be, and it will be announced soon.
Dan.
And HBO is is distributing the film, and it will be on
Congratulations.
HBO in the summer.
Yep.
Fantastic. Dan.
And
Don.
real quick,
Yes.
my daughter, Maeve,
That's right.
I love you.
Yeah.
Do you have any other shout outs before we go?
My wife is right there, and she is the ultimate activist. She's gone through a lot to marry me, and she was not Mormon, came from a very liberal family, and she taught me the ways of her heart and her mind, and I wouldn't be here today without her. Yeah.
Thank you. Don, thank you. Tyler, thank you so much. Great to see you guys. All right, we're going to take a break. That is Believer. Include it in your screening plans. It's a beautiful film and certainly has resonance both here in Park City, Utah, across Utah, and right across the world. We'll be right back, 306 Hollywood, after this.